everyone, it's Fangirl Hell. This is our Fandom Exchange number 3. Today we're doing TV shows, so hopefully that's more relatable to people who don't like to read. Um, my name is Christy Lee Stewart. I am a Disney City girl, and as always, with me is my co-host.
Cosmic, lifelong nerd, aspiring genius, and watching my two cats fight.
Oh, are they in mating season?
Well, they're both girls.
That doesn't matter.
I know. No, they're not in mating season. They're both fixed.
Gee. Okay, Bill O'Reilly.
Speaking of City Girl, I haven't been on there in a few days, and the last time I was on there, there was a challenge that needed to be completed within 2 days. So I think I may have missed that challenge.
Okay, for those of you who don't know, uh, like years ago, uh, Disney released on a console Disney City Girls, and I don't know what it was, but it became a big joke on like fangirl blogs to say, "Oh yeah, I'm a girl gamer, check it out," and like post a picture of
Yeah.
Disney City Girls, and it's kind of like, ha ha ha, that's not a real game. Well, they put it on Facebook as a Facebook game, and it's like a simplified version of The Sims.
Yeah.
And I am completely addicted to it. So yeah, I'm definitely a city girl, and I got
I
Cosmo to play with me a little bit.
I don't know. It hasn't captured me like it captured you because it feels like there's no. I mean, there are goals, but it doesn't feel like it because it doesn't feel like I have to really do anything. It's like, oh, click here to do this, click here to do that, click here to do this. It doesn't feel like I'm really doing anything.
That's true, but the appeal to me is I've always liked the dress up.
Yeah,
I
that
never,
part's fun. That part's fun, like
yeah.
giving different hair and different clothes and stuff, but the rest of it's boring.
Okay, and the other thing that appeals to me, and so I'm going to out myself as an asshole here, is I like to be better than everyone else. So I really like, because in The Sims, I don't like The Sims because it's super fun, but you can't go into strangers' houses and see their characters.
Yeah.
It's you on your computer.
Have you
Whereas
seen
this,
my house in City Girl? It's
it's lame. And I love that. I love going from my house that looks amazing to other people's house that look really shitty and poor. I
I
love that.
I am upset that it will not let me put my phone on top of my microwave, so it's just sitting on the floor.
I know. I was upset about that too. So yeah, I'm the asshole that only plays the game so I can be like, oh, you with your poor wallpaper. I'm a terrible person. But and this relates a little bit not to our fangirl challenge, but to our actual show. They're releasing Sims 4, and apparently they've been hinting that it's going to be more internet involved.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so if you could actually go into strangers' houses,
Yeah.
I'm getting that.
I mean, making The Sims internet involved is basically like Second Life.
That's what Megan said. She said, and when I told her that, she's like, "Oh, they're not going to do that because people are going to say it's another Second Life." But I
Yeah.
mean, Second Life's pretty progressive. Why would you not want to do that? It
Well,
makes
but then
tons of money.
yeah, but you're basically just copying something that another company's already doing.
I don't see that because it's like Sims came first, and this was just a logical extension of what the Sims would be eventually. So
Yeah.
I think that Second Life, it kind of like just was like, oh, that's what The Sims is going to be one day. I'll just do that right now.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay, so fandom exchange, we really should.
yeah.
Okay, so do you want to talk first, or would you like me to?
I'll go first. Sure. Well, I'm sorry. I will say what show I gave you, and then you can talk about the show. So, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, I gave Christy the show Orphan Black. It's a BBC America original production. Um, it's sort of like I'm trying the genre. It's like it's got a little sci-fi. There's a little mystery, suspense, thriller in there, and all that stuff. I wasn't really gonna give the show a shot when I first saw the previews, but then it came on um right after Doctor Who on Saturday nights, and I stuck around for the first episode when it aired, and I thought it was really good. And eventually, I started looking more forward to watching Orphan Black than I was to watching Doctor Who. So,
Ooh.
I really like that it's very fast paced with its mythos. Like they don't take forever to give you an answer about something. Like you're fast paced getting more and more information. So I thought that was really nice compared to some modern sci-fi shows where they give you a hint about something and then 6 months later they're finally giving you another hint that connects to it, you know?
Mhm.
So um yeah, so go ahead if you want to take over from here, or do you want me to keep talking about it?
Well, first, I think we should say in our conversation, there's definitely going to be spoilers. So if you want to see
Yeah.
the show, you don't want spoilers, don't listen to this. But the first season's been over for a while now,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we're gearing up for the second one.
Hmm.
Uh, I heard of the show because I heard a lot of people like talking about it, but I never tried it. So when you gave it to me, I was like, oh, okay. The first episode I didn't particularly like.
Yeah, it's set. It has to like set up the background story, I guess.
Y- Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what the show is, Cosmic, give a quick summary about what the show
So
is.
there's this character named Sarah. She is running away from her drug dealer boyfriend, and she stole a bunch of his drugs, and she's gonna sell them to get her daughter and go away. She's on a subway platform, and she turns and sees this woman that looks exactly like her. And the woman then jumps in front of a train, kills herself, and Sarah takes her bag and assumes her identity. And then she starts finding out about all these other women that look exactly like her. And then it turns out that they're clones. Is that
Yeah,
good enough?
yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So the first episode, the only character you're following is this main girl, this Sarah,
Yeah.
and uh, it's not like I disliked her character. It's just she wasn't like that really compelling to me.
Okay.
Um, Another one of the main characters that you get right off the bat is her brother, who isn't her biological brother, but her foster brother, but they still consider themselves brother and sister and
Yeah.
just as good, just as close. And he is flamboyantly gay, and it struck me like immediately like, oh wow, they're really making him a stereotype. They couldn't just make him gay. He had to be like, oh, I'm so artsy and I'm so very. It was just
Hmm.
a ton of a stereotypes. That was
Now, did your opinion of him stay that way throughout the series?
no.
No. Okay. Because during Comic Con, it wasn't a Comic Con panel, but it was a panel put on by a podcast that I can't remember the name of, but they had the Orphan Black cast on there, and somebody asked the actor who plays Felix, Jordan Guevara, I think is his name. Um, they asked him like what his response had been to his character, and he said that from the uh, gay community, it was a really good response. But there was this one specific straight reviewer, I guess, like a professional reviewer, that said, that was just complaining that his character was such a stereotype, and the reviewer said, if I was a gay man, I would be offended. And the actor was saying how irresponsible that was as a journalist to say that, because you aren't gay, so you can't really judge the character from that perspective,
Yeah.
especially if the gay community themselves are okay with it. But
Yeah, I wasn't offended by it. It
yeah,
just seemed like weak writing.
yeah,
Um, and it wasn't even also the first episode. It was like whenever they were trying to make it a point to let you know he was gay, it was like a stereotypical. But whenever he was just like talking to his sister or talking
yeah,
to her abusive boyfriend, it was like he all of a sudden became a normal character. And it
yeah.
was the
That's
fact that he just
yeah.
quickly went back and forth from being like,
That's a
oh,
that's
by
an
the way,
yeah. That's another thing that the actor brought up as well during that same answer he was giving. He said, maybe it's a choice that the character makes to purposefully act that way as, like, a coping mechanism to get, you know, to pass more easily through things. You know, like if you easily fit into a stereotype, I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying, and
Yeah.
that yeah, I can see that. But the fact is that the story isn't about him, and
Yes.
you never get to learn that fact about him, and it never matters.
Yeah.
That it would be like okay, but they do as it goes on, and they actually give him a role in the series. He becomes more fleshed out.
Yeah.
Um. So another thing I didn't really like in the as I watched the first episode is it has a lot to do with like police because she
Yeah.
finds out the person she starts impersonating is a cop, so it's a lot of like copy stuff,
Yeah.
and I just can't stand stories about cops. But as I watched the second episode, I got more interesting, and as the story goes on, they introduce more characters that this actress plays,
Yeah.
these other clones, and it becomes not only really interesting the story and the characters, oh, like you really want to know what's going to happen to these characters.
Yeah.
It's like it's exciting to watch just to see this actress play all these
Yeah.
characters because she plays them so well.
Yeah.
Like in the scenes, I keep trying to tell myself this is the same actress because you'll totally forget.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to take myself out of the scene, but at the same time, like I want to still be amazed that she's the same person.
I know. A lot of people were thinking, that was it the Emmys? A lot of people who were fans of the show were hoping she would get like a nomination or like I don't know, Best Actress or whatever, but she didn't. But she did win a Screen Actors Guild award, I think is what it was, for her part. So
Yeah, I mean, because we know you see a lot of movies, you know a lot of actors, and a lot of actors get quote unquote typecast because
yeah,
they look a certain part and they play a certain part. But I mean, with subtle makeup that they gave her so you can immediately tell the difference, she had the ability to act in such slightly nuanced ways that the moment the character
yeah.
moved, you knew exactly who she was playing.
Or then the parts where she had to play a character pretending to be another character.
Yeah, that would be impossible if you were not as good an actress as she was.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree with that.
So yeah, that was amazing. So even if you didn't like the show, I could see still watching to see how the hell she keeps pulling that off.
I know.
So and kudos to the writer because I shit on writers a lot, like I know anything. But kudos to the writers because it's not just her acting that can, you know, convey that depth.
Yeah,
It's also the writing. So yeah, in general, really liked it. It was really cool. You have lots of different characters that she plays. There's, this kind of what do you call her, soccer mom
yeah.
character. Uh
Allison.
yeah, who you immediately don't want to like, but then you just have to like her because I mean, it would suck being a soccer mom and she's kind of stuck in that life and she kind of enjoys it.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel bad for her that she enjoys it and she just wants a normal life.
And as she slowly becomes unhinged and gets more
Yeah.
and more like high strung.
Like you can totally tell though. I could relate to that. If I was a soccer mom, I would go fucking crazy.
The intervention scene.
Yeah. We'll tell them about that because I keep talking.
Okay, so at one point, the clones, they all have monitors that watch them and like report back to the company that I guess originally cloned them. So Allison, the soccer mom, suspects that her husband is her clone, is her monitor. So at one point, she hits him over the head with a golf club and takes him into the basement and like ties him up and basically tortures him with a glue gun. Then she gets convinced by Sarah that her husband Donnie is not her monitor. He's just her stupid husband Donnie that she's known since high school. And then shortly after that, like, they sort of separate for a bit, and she goes and sleeps with her best friend's husband, and an intervention gets called on her. And she gets ambushed by it, like all interventions are.
Yeah. All the good ones.
Yeah.
On TV at least.
And so she's sitting there, she's surprised by this intervention, and she's sitting there and she's listening to all these people say how concerned they are about her and all this stuff, and this is where my horrible memory comes in. Something causes her to run off and lock herself in the bathroom. And then Felix goes in and talks to her, and he's basically telling her, just go out there, pretend like you're sincerely understanding and listening to what they're saying, and just get them to leave. Just put on an act and get them to leave so it'll be over. So she goes out and she starts off acting like she's going to do what Felix said, to just play along with it. And then she just goes off and starts like babbling all these like secrets that she has about like her friend like blowing the roofer, and it's hilarious.
Which is exactly, I think, what we would all do if we were in her situation.
Yeah.
I certainly would.
Oh, and can we just talk about how, okay, Allison thought her monitor was her husband. Then she moves away from him and thinks it's her friend, Ainsley. So
how do you remember everybody's names?
I just do. So there's that part towards the end of the season, when she goes over to Ainsley's house and Ainsley's like packing up because she's gonna move, and then Ainsley's scarf gets caught in the the garbage disposal, and Allison for a split second looks like she's gonna go help her, and then she just kind of stands there watching her friend like get choked to death basically, because she thinks it's her monitor. And then at the reveal, her monitor was her husband all along.
Yeah.
Oh!
But like, even so, I'm glad that she died. She was annoying. She wasn't a great friend anyway.
No, she wasn't. She wasn't, but I guarantee you, if and when Allison ever finds out that Ainsley was not her monitor, that's going to be seriously hard on her.
Yeah. It wouldn't on someone as heartless as me, but yeah, on her it would be.
Oh, okay, so let's talk about Helena.
Okay, I love her. Like, I'm not, like, I'm, like, in love with this character.
But she got shot.
So? Everybody gets shot. Doesn't matter.
I mean, she's assumed to be dead.
Look, man, if you watch as many soap operas as I watch...
My two favorite characters from the show were Helena and Allison. And I was so sad when Helena was shot. Like, that poor, like, mentally disturbed, manipulated woman.
But she was, like, gutted with, like, a rusty pole before.
That's true.
And she came back. I don't think she's dead. So the reason I like this character is she's a clone that kind of got captured, got persuaded away by this like religious group.
Well, she actually, what it was, the surrogate mother, Helena and Sarah were both in the womb.
They were twins
together. Yeah. And their surrogate mother, at the last minute, sort of started thinking that the people that she was being a surrogate for were a little shady. So she took the twin, Helena and Sarah. She gave Helena to a nunnery. I can't think of the word for it.
They're called nunneries, yeah. That's probably offensive now, that term. Maybe not.
Well, she gave Helena to a nunnery, and then she gave Sarah to Mrs. S, the woman who became her foster mother. And then Helena was, like, there was a sect, I guess, within that commune. It's a commune, isn't? No, it's not a commune. Anyway, there were people within the religious place that Helena was at that,
monastery.
A monastery. I thought that was only for monks.
I don't know.
Anyway,
no, go on.
There were people there that sort of, found out, I guess, that she was a clone, maybe, and they took her from there and just like completely brainwashed her into thinking that she's the original, that she is not a clone, she is the original human, and all the other clones were made from her. So all the other clones are abominations under God, and it's her mission to track them down and get rid of them.
And what accent is she supposed to have? Because I forgot.
Ukrainian.
Ukrainian. She's cool. She has like this bleached blonde hair with like her root showing,
Yeah.
and she just acts all schizo.
And she carves angel wings into her back,
which I love. So gorgeous. Like, I know it's supposed to be gross or whatever, but I totally have a thing for
and
scars
oh, the
and
scene
religious imagery.
the
So I
scene
was
where
like,
the
oh.
scene where she cuts that guy's tail off and then she's dancing with
Yes.
it.
She's so cool. She's just so weird, and she like has this incestuous love for her twin sister, which it's I don't think it's supposed to come off that way, but it definitely does.
Yeah, just a bit.
It's great. I love her. If she doesn't come back, I may stop watching.
Oh.
I love her. The thing about the show that I absolutely loathe
Okay.
is almost every male character is just horrible.
Yeah.
They're just horrible. You
Yep.
in the first episode you have um what's her name? Sarah,
Yeah.
the main girl.
Sarah.
She's impersonating this cop, and of course the woman she's impersonating has a partner, and he's uh as I said, because I said he's a man, and immediately when he shows up, there's all this stuff going down because he's angry with her. But not only is he angry with her, he'll constantly grab her arm very tightly and drag her places, and he's constantly talking down to her, very angry and really aggressive. And I kept thinking, geez, is he gonna hit her? It's just very, very aggressive, and he's like that way all through it. And then in the first episode, you learn that she has this abusive ex-boyfriend that she's running away from, who, um, when she got away from him before the first episode, she hit him in the face with an ashtray, so his face is all busted up.
Yeah.
But he is I mean, he has his funny moments, so you're like, oh, that's kind of funny, and then you remember how horrible he is because he is extremely physically abusive and demeaning and just really disgusting. And he like won't go away. He stalks her and he threatens her and he, physically beats her.
Yeah.
It-
Go ahead.
so then you have, so she's trying to get away from all these people. She's trying to get the money from the cop she's impersonating, so she has to put up with the cop who's constantly dragging her and just is really gross with her. And then she finds out that the person she's impersonating has a boyfriend, and he is, for you don't know why, is really angry with her the moment he sees her, and he's constantly grabbing her and pushing her, and he's very sexually aggressive. And the first couple times she sleeps with him simply to try to get out of the situation or keep herself safe. So I mean, technically the first times that they sleep together it is rape, and he's very dominant. He'll get over her and he'll push her down, and later on when she starts to have feelings for him, which I think is complete bullshit because there's never a justifiable reason why she should like him, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, oh, he's a good lay, so I'm starting to have feelings for him. He tries to pressure her into having sex with him in his office, and he just literally gets on top of her and won't get off. The
Yeah.
whole show is just only the brother treats her with any respect
Mm-hmm.
at all.
Okay. Are you, are you done? Because I have a counterpoint to this.
Okay.
Okay. So I read this article on the AV from the AV Club about Orphan Black, and they made this person who wrote the article made the argument that a large focus of this show could be seen as female characters trying to gain their agency. So, and it says in the article that it's also significant that those trying to limit the clone's freedom are all men, The smirking scientists who claim ownership over the clones, the duplicitous monitors that keep tabs on their every waking moment, the fanatical religious order that's trying to eliminate them altogether. All men, all trying desperately to keep control of these miraculous women's bodies. Without giving too much away, the finale's revelation that the clones have even less independence than they realized is especially devastating because the entire season is about them fighting tooth and nail for their freedom. So if you look at it from that standpoint, it could almost seem like they made the men act that way on purpose.
I can see that, and you could make a case for that if this was a matter, if we were discussing this as an art piece or a literature
Yeah.
piece. But
Okay.
the fact that this is a for-profit TV show that's currently running,
Mm-hmm.
it's you know that's not what they were going for. You
But
know that's not.
okay, okay, but at which is more important, the author's intention, even if it was, or the author's what the author did, even if it was unintentional, or what the audience takes from it? Because if the audience takes from it that the that what these men are doing is bad to these women, then does that completely negate, or not negate, but help to subdue, I guess, what maybe the author intended?
Okay, well, take for instance, if we're looking at this as a, well, this is, more of an allegory for the way women are treated in
Mm-hmm.
society and sexually, whatever. You still have the main character, Sarah, who, for no reason other than she likes to have sex with this particular man, starts having feelings for him. She's given absolutely nothing about him that to find attractive, and I'm not just being um it's not just my opinion. I mean, when she starts saying she likes him, she doesn't. She literally knows nothing about him.
Yeah.
Further on, he shares, "Oh, I was in the army and I killed a bunch of people." Okay, and okay, maybe she digs that. That's fine. But it's the fact that after he raped her a few times, she decided, "Oh, I like having sex with him," and so then it became uh, consensual.
Yeah.
So where's the allegory in that? Because she's not trying to get away from anymore. He all of a sudden becomes a hero, and he comes in and he helps save her and all this stuff after dehumanizing her and raping her and just being very disgusting.
Yeah.
So where is it in that?
I don't know.
And it would be another thing
That
if the audience was taking away from it. Oh, this is horrible um the way these men treat her, but having
it seems like the only that the only men that the audience don't have a problem with are Felix, the brother, and the guy that
the rapist.
the rapist. Yeah, and all the other guys they hate.
Well, some people do like her ex-boyfriend because he does have funny moments, even
Well,
though he's a
yeah,
horrible person. Which I agree, the many moments that they gave him that are funny,
yeah.
but then you remember, oh my god, he's a horrible person. I don't want him to be funny anymore.
Well, how much? I mean, at one point, the ex-boyfriend Vic, he goes to, I don't know, some addicts anonymous thing. So it almost makes you ask the question, well, how much of his behavior was stemming from his addict personality, and how much of it was genuinely him? And I
I don't
know
know.
that could
That lets people off the hook way
hook.
too much.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have known a lot of people who use recreational drugs,
Hmm.
and the idea that, oh, you act like a completely different person when you're on drugs is just not true.
Yeah,
It's like being drunk. People say, oh, you just act more like yourself when you're drinking. Well, that's the fact of it. Certain parts of your personality become more pronounced. If you're the type of person who's going to beat someone, yeah, you might be more willing to do that when you're on a certain drug,
yeah,
but someone who isn't inclined to do that, taking the same drug will not.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah.
So, if it was a matter of the audience was taking the material differently than what it was intended and it was actually doing some good, that would be something else. But the from what I've seen, most of the people are taking it as, oh my god, what a good show! That guy that I call the rapist is so hot. He's so cool. The
Yeah.
guy, her ex-boyfriend, he's so funny.
Yeah.
They're taking it how uh, the authors, the writers intended it to be in a very, straightforward
Yeah. Um,
interpretation.
with more specifically with the first time that Sarah and Paul had sex. I mean, I know we as the audience know that that was Sarah, not Beth, who was supposed to be Paul's girlfriend. But we don't really know how Paul was with Beth. I mean, if he was supposed to be dating this woman, it doesn't seem so odd to me for him to try to initiate sex with her.
But he didn't initiate sex with her. She did when they were arguing, and
Well, that's true.
he backed her up against the counter and was yelling at her, and she had no way to escape, so she launched herself at him. And he acted really surprised, like, "Oh, what's going on?"
Yeah.
And he continued to be like, "Oh, what's going on?" And he said a couple times that, oh, they hadn't slept together in forever. And the fact, I mean, you can say, well, he doesn't, because there's been this conversation in comic books, especially this idea of what constitutes rape when you have a sort of fantasy setting.
Yeah.
When, say, like, there's a character in Marvel, Mystique, who can change her
Yeah.
form. So if she has sex with someone in the form of someone else, is she raping that person even though they willingly have sex with her because they think she's someone else? Well, the question is, yeah, because they're not willingly having sex with her, she's tricked them. So the fact is that not only did he can this constitute as rape in this show, all the previous times he had sex with his girlfriend, quote unquote, were rape because he started dating her in this
Yeah.
manipulative way. Like, he got into her
Yeah.
life specifically to monitor. She had no idea who he actually was,
That's
and
true.
he manipulated her into being in a relationship under false pretenses the whole time.
That's true. Yeah.
So he's a serial rapist. Ugh.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to say, or do you want to give your overall star rating?
Well, let me just. What's the scientist?
Cosima.
Oh, Kasima. I really like Kasima. Because you don't often see. There isn't a lot of female characters
Hmm.
that are smart and confident.
Yeah.
Usually, when you have a female character that's smart, she's usually kind of shy,
Yeah.
or, it's they kind of make a thing out of it that, this is abnormal for her to be smart, and they didn't do that at all. Not only was she not abnormal for being an intelligent woman, she wasn't shy about it, she wasn't self-conscious, she, was very sociable, very normal, very cool, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And the romance that she had with
Delphine.
Delphine was really good, because it was an interesting romance,
Yeah.
first of all,
But
but also
with
because
Delphine, she's a little like Paul though in a way that she sort of misrepresented herself, and I'm still sort of unsure whether or not she actually had feelings for Cosima or if she's still playing her.
I think she, yeah, because I thought that at first, but I think what they're going for is she actually still likes her.
Okay.
So that's my interpretation, because
Yeah.
it seems.
The scene where they had their big fight, and Cosima, or not Cosima, Delphine said something like that she'd never been with a woman before, and Cosima was like, "Yeah, I could tell." Oh God, I laughed so hard.
Yeah, that was good. But the point I was gonna make is, in their relationship, let's say that it is genuine and she does
Yeah,
actually like her. It, I think this is the first time in anything that has ever been made that you have um, two women that are highly intelligent in a relationship with each other, and neither of them are that shy, kind of ashamed of it.
yeah,
Delphine is kind of um, I wouldn't say shy, but she's a little bit demure. She's not as charismatic, but
Hmm.
it's not over the fact that she's intelligent. She's unequivocally really intelligent,
Hmm.
and that's just it. And the two of them are. It was very. It stunk of equality. So I enjoyed that a lot. I like those characters. So overall, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Is
Out of
that
10?
what we're doing? Yeah.
I think it was out of 5 stars before, but 9 out of
Okay,
10 works too.
4 then, because I mean, after I got past the first episode, just hating the fact that it was about cops, it's a great story. The actors are fantastic. The characters are fantastic. And if it wasn't for the horrible male characters, like I would be okay for all of the horrible male characters in there if Sarah didn't end up falling in love with that abusive rapist.
Yeah.
If she was like, okay, as soon as I can get away from him, I'll get away from him, and that's the end of
Yeah.
that, I would
Well,
say the show's amazing.
I mean, God, my memory's a little fuzzy because I have a horrible memory, but I think by the final episode, like Paul sort of disappeared and like Sarah didn't know where he went.
Kind
So,
of, but it's in a definite, oh, this is going to be drama for next season.
okay.
And it
Oh,
wasn't like a, oh, I'm
and
glad that rapist is
yeah,
gone kind
and
of thing.
I don't know. I mean, I'm Paul will probably be in the next season, but I think a bigger storyline for Sarah next season is going to be where's her daughter?
Yeah.
Because the Mrs. S, who we find out was somehow connected to the clone project, has disappeared with her daughter.
Yeah. But I
So
definitely think he's going to be back, and that's going to be
yeah,
like a, oh, she likes him or whatever.
okay,
Ugh.
okay. So you gave it 4 out of 5 stars, 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what would you give it? You gave it to me, so I assume you love it, but what would you rate it?
I'd go maybe 4.5 out of 5. I mean, I do think there are a few problems. Like, I do think they could maybe use a little more racial diversity up in there. And
Yeah.
I know that's hard when over half the characters are played by the same one actress.
And
but,
their clones, yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was I thought it was cool though that Sarah and what's her name?
Which one?
Ukrainian
Oh,
Ukrainian
Helena.
Helena, that their surrogate
Their
mother was
surrogate mother
black.
is black. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was like, yeah, obviously you have that whole class,
Yeah.
thing going
That's
on.
yeah. That's even between the clones. There's like a class thing going on because like Sarah and even Helena to a point like are very very lower class. Like Sarah was like a street urchin practically,
Yeah.
and then you have um Allison, who's a well off, lives in a nice neighborhood, and immediately she looks down on Sarah. She's a hood rat basically.
Yeah.
So even between the clones, there's like a little bit of classism, you know.
Speaking of racism, I totally forgot about this, but the abusive ex-boyfriend, I thought
Huh.
he was supposed to be white.
I think he's Hispanic.
Yeah, well, the whole time I mean, because he's very light skinned,
Yeah.
I just thought he was a white guy, and at one point, the soccer mom chick was trying to describe him, and she goes, brown, something like that. Tried to,
She said
this kind
urban.
of,
She described him as urban.
was that it?
I'm pretty sure.
But something to indicate that he wasn't white.
She said she described him as urban, and then one of the characters she was talking to was like, "What does that mean?" And she goes, "Not white."
Yeah, so that I was like, he's not white?
I think he's
What?
Hispanic.
Okay. So they do have some people of color, but that guy, I thought he was white. He could still be white. Maybe
He can be like
maybe
Italian.
that still counts as white.
Yeah, I know. But a lot of Italian people they're white, but they have a darker skin complexion, more
He
olive.
wasn't even dark. Besides the crusty
He's
blood.
darker than me.
Well, that's not saying a whole lot. Okay. So I gave you X-Men is I think that's all it was called. It wasn't like the
X-Men
Adventures of.
animated series.
There you go, from the 90s. This is a cartoon that, I mean, it like defined my childhood. I was like obsessed with this show. It's what got me into comic books, and Rogue was my favorite superhero, and I used to play X-Men all the time. I gave you the series because when you said TV shows, it was like, what can I give her that she won't have seen and kind of represent something that I'm into that she's not? Because of course Orphan Black had to do with like sci-fi and stuff.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten you to read comic books yet. So
I have
uh,
actually read a few comic books.
okay, well, a series or what have you. Um so I thought, okay, this would be good. And I I I like this cartoon. It's so, I mean, it's so funny and crazy and outdated, and watching it now, it's just like ridiculous, but it has like such of that like charm of like old cartoons that you watched as a kid and they were cool, and you watch them as an adult and you're like, this is hilarious. These voice actors are just too much.
On
And
that note, on that note, I would like to say bonjour, petit.
come on, that's cute. Yeah, poor Gambit. And I don't even think he got the worst of it though.
Or Storm sounding like she's some Gaia Mother Earth.
But here's the thing, because you posted about that,
Yeah.
and I didn't say anything. Let me finish. The reason I like X-Men, and the reason I thought it'd be good for our show, because we do talk about more broader issues, is that it was literally created to be an allegory for racism and homophobia
Yeah.
coming out of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And this, of course, was an adapted to the 90s, and we're going through the same kind of social climate change right now, so I thought it might be interesting to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the accents. You said like, oh, you know, she's mother guy. Well, the fact is, she was a goddess. She was supposed to be Gaia, goddess of the earth. She literally,
Really?
yeah.
Oh.
She learned later that she was a mutant, but her origins is in Africa. She had these special abilities. She believed she was a goddess. The people believed she was a goddess, and she was like a goddess of Earth. And then she goes on to start, you know, working for the X-Men and trying to help the mutant race.
Huh. Okay.
So you sat down to watch this hilarious 90s cartoon.
Okay. The thing,
Did did you finish it?
I want to say I did. I think I might not have seen the very, very last episode. I kept meaning to watch it. I just didn't get around to it. But I
You
saw pretty much all of it except the final episode. But I don't really think it mattered because it seemed like in every episode they would bring up this sort of plot point that they could easily have made an overarching storyline and then they just drop it.
Well, here's the thing. It was the cartoon was adapted from the comic book, so a lot of that was, yeah, they they would bring up an arc that they did in the comics, and just kind of, you know, because it was supposed to be like a fast-paced cartoon.
Yeah.
So if you were interested in any of those that they just dropped, they actually went through with them in the comics at some point.
But that kind of frustrated me because it's like, oh, okay, let's see where this goes. Next episode, nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But what happened about the thing in the last episode? No
I, I
mention.
I wonder if they did that because they thought, oh, kids aren't paying attention anyway, or if it was actually an effort to get people to read the comics.
I don't know. But actually, you said part of the reason you gave this to me is because you wanted to give me something that I'd never seen before. But I did actually watch this cartoon as a kid. I just don't.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned that to me, but it's a whole other experience watching that kind of thing as an adult. Is it not?
Well, the thing is even though I watched it as a kid, the only thing I really remembered was what the characters looked like and like a love triangle. And I couldn't even remember who it was between. I just remember there was a love
Oh,
triangle.
the
So
epic love triangle.
I didn't really remember a whole lot about the cartoon anyway. So,
Okay.
one thing though that kind of struck me was like some of the things that happened seemed like surprisingly mature for a children's cartoon.
Mhm.
Like, death and the love triangle and the jealousy that comes with it and the prejudice and oppression and even a few like slightly sexual situations like when they get um Cyclops and Jean Grey, was it, get taken underground by like that group of mutants, and then their leader is like saying that she wants Cyclops to like mate with her to make an heir or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that was creepy for a children's cartoon, okay?
It's kind of funny because uh, there was kind of a pattern of that in 90s cartoons to do, because now we have actual adult cartoons,
Yeah.
on our Adult Swim or whatever, but in the 90s they were kind of, because it came after the gritty 80s
Yeah.
where they were kind of doing more adult themed drama cartoons for kids, and it didn't last
Yeah.
too especially long. But into contrast with the comics were definitely got a whole lot darker, and it was much worse than, well, worse. It was much more serious
Yeah.
than the cartoons, and of course they were taking the storylines directly from the comics. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah. I don't know. It
I
just surprised
I
me
think
because, like,
I think that's one of the reasons I liked it as a kid, because it was actually a little bit
yeah.
serious.
I mean, I was trying to think of like cartoons that I watched as a kid that if they were like that as well, but I mean, the only ones I can remember is like David the Gnome,
I love that show.
um, the Gummy Bears,
Oh my god.
the Care Bears, um, the Simpsons. I don't know. I don't think I really watched a lot of cartoons as a kid. Like, I watched shows that were geared at children, but they were more like live action or claymation. Um,
Yeah, I did the total opposite. I liked the cartoons. I didn't like the well, Clarissa and stuff. I watched that.
yeah. Did you ever watch Zoobly Zoo?
It doesn't even ring a bell.
Zoobly Zoo.
Okay.
No, no, no. I will have to send you a picture. Like, my sister and I loved that show when we were children, and then like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, we just randomly remembered it. Like, we had completely forgotten about it, and just it randomly came back into our minds. And we looked up pictures, and we were surprised that we were not terrified by these actors when we were children, because they're people, but they're made up to look like animals, and they're not like in full costume. It's like this weird animal human hybrids, and they are
Anthropomorphic.
creepy looking.
Well, I look forward to that. Now it's a sexual fetish. They call them furries now.
No, they weren't. They weren't even to that extent, because furries do like full on costumes.
Yeah.
This wasn't even like that. Like, no. But yeah, so I didn't really watch a whole lot of cartoons as a kid. Not that I can remember anyway.
Mm.
I mean, I'm sure I did, but it was more like the Looney Tunes kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know, like, it was odd. I'm not really sure how I feel about the X-Men cartoon. Like, I don't
Was
know.
it uh, was it odd that they were doing that kind of, oh, we have to make a baby kind of thing, and they were cartoons?
Yeah, that it kind of made me think, wow, this isn't a children's cartoon. And like when the one character died, like that's a heavy thing. And like towards the very beginning, like he died. The
Which
one that
one?
can change shape, the shapeshifter guy.
Jeez, I don't even remember.
Morph, I think is what they called him.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Um like they didn't actually show him dying, but they made it very obvious that he was dead. The characters reacted to it, and it's like
Yeah.
that seems really heavy for a children's cartoon. You know, like something like that nowadays. If they were going to do that in a cartoon or even just a children's show, like it would be, a very special episode, and they would have, something, and in
Yeah.
the X Men cartoon, they just treated it like, oh well, that's life. I mean,
Well,
I don't.
yeah, and that's why I like the
I mean,
X-Men.
I don't know if that was something that was indicative of the time it was made, or if that was something that was sort of unique to that specific cartoon.
It's definitely something that was, it was a theme in the the X-Men franchise, because the franchise literally was about oppression of minorities and others. And to do that, of course, they talked about dying, and it would be an allegory. They're out there fighting people, trying to save people and trying to protect themselves. It was allegory of people being out there in their lives, trying to be this other within society, and people actually die. So it was an allegory of that. You go out and you fight these robots that they sent to destroy your people, and you end up dying. It's an allegory for going out and just trying to exist in society and being killed because of a hate crime.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seemed really heavy for a children's cartoon. I think that's what threw me off the most. That and the whole let's bring up a plot issue and then completely drop it.
Yeah.
That annoyed me because it was like, well, I want to. Where is this going? Like, bring them back. Tell me their story. Like, I mean, as a child, it probably wouldn't have bothered me because I probably wouldn't have had the attention span for it. But as an adult, I'm like, wait, where did they? What happened to the? So.
Yeah, I don't think that type of thing would play over to audiences now.
Yeah, even children now would be like, well, but where did that person go?
Yeah.
Another thing, like Gambit's accent. I know we already talked about the accents, but that's I've been just like as I was thinking about what I was gonna say for this episode, like just his random like pate kept coming back into my head, and it's like driving me crazy.
Yeah, his is outrageous, and it's outrageous in the comic. Like to this day, they still write him in the comic with that like over the top kind of accent, which they do, of course, in the comic, and so oh, he talks in this way because they really want to.
He's supposed to be like what, like
Cajun.
Yeah.
And
I mean, if you hear like Cajun people speak, like they do a little bit sound like that, but it just sounds so ridiculous coming.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets annoying. The last issue of Astonishing X-Men, I think it was, like he had a bunch of lines and he kept calling everyone pate, over and over. Like it was the beginning of every sentence, the end of every sentence. It was like, I'm going to rip this comic book if he says that one more time.
Plus, I mean, maybe in Cajun it's different, but like petit in French means like small or little, and you can't like calling someone petit. It's like calling them little. You gotta. It's an adjective,
I don't know Cajun language yet. Maybe it means something different because I know that there's like a lot of things that are different about it.
I mean, I'm sure it's like a French loan. It's a loan word.
Yeah.
From French, so I'm sure in Cajun it's just like a term of endearment or whatever. But as someone who knows at least a little bit of French, it kept annoying me. It's like you're just calling them small. It doesn't mean
anything. Yeah, it is very annoying. I agree. So given what the intent of the show was, and that it was presented as a kids show, do you think it translated? If you were a kid watching the show, or even as an adult watching the show, if you just turned it on, would you get like, oh, they're talking about racism and homophobia?
It's hard to say because I already knew that the X-Men were an allegory for that. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of hard to read anything else into it but that. Do you get what I'm saying? Like if I had never heard of the X-Men, or I had no idea that they were an allegory for like racism and homophobia and stuff, I may have read it differently, but since I already know that's what it's an allegory of, I don't really see anything but that, So
do you think though? Do you think that it still accomplishes the same thing? Because you have to figure out some ways to present these social issues to kids, and if they're ingesting these ideas of, oh, they were just born something different and they can't control that, and they're still ingesting the ideas of of X-Men, do you think it still does the same job because they've ingested the concept, and then later in life when you say to them, well, people of different colors are just born that way, and people who are gay or transgender or whatever are just born that way, they've already ingested that sort of ideology, and
Yeah,
so it's
I mean,
easy to.
yeah, I can understand how that would um influence the way they see, real life issues of somebody just being born the way they are. Um, but I I kind of get the feeling that while maybe a majority of people would, correlate, oh, the X-Men mutants are just born that way, so people who are, different races or are gay or transgender are just born that way. A majority of people would probably make that connection, but I get the feeling there will still probably be some people who would be like, oh yeah, but the X-Men aren't real, so that's just fiction. And like I get the
Yeah,
feeling there are still some people who probably don't make that connection.
I agree with that, but I still think I mean, not just for this, but for anything, if you've been exposed to an idea or a concept
Yeah.
enough, it becomes more familiar with you. So
Oh
even
yeah.
if, even if this is just a story, it becomes a collective unconscious.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like when I was younger, I used to watch Ricky Lake's talk show a lot. Like a lot.
Me
Rick,
too, man. We should have been friends.
Ricky Lake, Jerry Springer, Jenny Jones, Sally Jesse Raphael, Maury, like yeah. Um but like especially with the Ricky Lake show and a little bit I'd say with Jerry Springer as well. Like they had a lot of people on the show that were, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, drag queens, you name it. They had a lot of that, especially on Ricky Lake. They also had it on Jerry Springer, but with Jerry Springer, I'd say I don't necessarily want to say that they were trying to purposely portray them in a negative light because they kind of portray everybody in a negative light on Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
But you know, as a young age being exposed to that, I kind of feel like as an adult that as I grew up, when I found out, oh, that person's gay or that person's transgender, like it didn't bother me. It didn't really even phase me because it's like, oh, okay, sure,
Yeah.
because I was
It didn't
exposed
seem
to it at such a young
unusual.
age. Yes, it didn't seem unusual because I had been exposed to it at a young age, so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I definitely think that, the the tenets of the X-Men mythos that, people are just born the way they are and they can't help it and you should accept them for that. Um Being exposed
Well,
to something like that
not only
as
that
a
they can't
child.
help, not only that they can't help it, but it. I, I like the fact that it was also some people really wanted to be mutants who weren't,
Yeah.
and some of the mutants had really cool powers and had really good lives, and some
Yeah.
of them didn't. Especially with Rogue, that really struck me, and I see as an adult
Yeah.
definitely how that relates to homosexuality because
Yeah.
she has this ability to absorb people's powers, and
Yeah.
because of it she can't touch anyone. Well, she can now because of some different stuff, but back in the day she wasn't allowed to touch anyone, so she wasn't allowed to ever be in a sexual relationship. She couldn't even give a friend a hug or
Yeah.
anything. So when it came out that, oh, there might be a cure, the analogy is, religious,
Yeah.
institutions. It was like there was this one scene that I remember from X-Men where the mutants were saying, "Oh, that's horrible. Who would ever want to do that?" And I think it was Professor X who kind of said softly, "Well, it's not completely out of the question for everybody." And she kind of goes off on her own and tries to get the cure,
Yeah.
and then it ends up not working, but she decides against it anyway. But it was it's a very poignant commentary
Yeah.
that because some people had mutations that made them beautiful and happy and they had wonderful lives, and some people had mutations that just ruined their lives.
Yeah. That's like in the X-Men First Class movie.
Hmm.
Um I can't remember his name, but Beast. Like
Hmm.
he started off mostly looking human, and then he tried to cure himself, and it backfired and made him look even more mutant.
Yeah.
So,
And it continues to do that in the comic book. He
mhm.
continues to mutate more and more and more, where he becomes less and less human. And in Battle of the Atom, which just got released, we see that a future version of him is just completely, he's not even like anthropomorphic anymore, and he has horns, and he's just kind of,
Can he? I mean, does he still? Can he still like talk like a human, or is he just completely animal?
yeah, he's still, yeah, as far, did he talk? Well, I don't know if, I can't remember if he had any lines yet. We assume he did.
Well, even if he can't talk, does he still think like a human, or is his brain just completely animalistic now?
we well,
Or
we
do you
don't know
not know?
because I mean, the issue just came out,
Okay.
and they just kind of aired, and they're like, oh, but from past mutations he has, he is more inclined to be more bestial, and
Hmm.
he worries about losing his humanity, and it goes on and on like that. So
Hmm. That's sad.
yes, but it makes a really good point.
Yeah.
So what would you rate the cartoon, not the show, with the funny accents and everything?
I'm gonna go. Okay. My biggest issue was there was no overarching plot, and there easily could have been.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna have to give it like 2.5 stars.
Wow.
Because that really, really, to me, as an adult, that really, really detrimentally hurt that cartoon. They
Yeah.
needed to have at least, even if it was in the background for most of the episodes, I really feel like they needed to at least have one overarching storyline. Even if they wanted to have like a creature of the week type of thing, they need at least one overarching storyline, and they didn't really have that.
Yeah, I can
So,
see that.
so
I think I just it, like, it even seems different in my memory
yeah,
because I finished all those story arcs,
yeah, yeah.
because I read the comics.
Yeah. And see, as someone who's never read the comics, it doesn't. It's almost like it felt disjointed.
Mm.
It felt like I was missing episodes. Like they would bring something up, and then I'd see the next episode and think, well, did I miss 5 episodes somewhere in between here? Like what?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I can. Yeah,
yeah.
I definitely see that. I, of course, would give it a 5 out of 5
Well,
because it
plus, but
defined my childhood.
exactly, you're looking at it through the rose-colored glasses of nostalgia.
Yeah, most most definitely.
Yeah. I also, um, Cable was in this, wasn't it?
Yes, he was.
And I kept thinking, oh, is Deadpool going to show up at some point?
He does. Did you not see him?
No, he was in the first season. Was
What,
he?
Deadpool?
Yeah, was he in the first season?
Yeah, I think so. Well,
I don't remember seeing him.
because he doesn't appear as a as like a talking character. I think
Okay.
he's a little bit too much, for the kids.
Yes.
But he like appears in this montage of bad guys. I think Wolverine's like thinking, and he's like, all these
Oh.
faces are going past him, and there's like Deadpool, which I
I'll,
think would have been adorable if he was like wearing like a bonnet or something. But no.
I'll have to look and see if I can see him because I didn't notice him.
Yeah, I had no. I found out recently that he was in there.
Hmm.
And so I looked on YouTube, and someone was like, "Oh yeah, here's where his face passes over." I was like, "Oh wow." So it was kind of like that wink to people who actually read the comics
Yeah.
that kids had no idea what they were talking about. Which the series was completely that mostly.
Yeah.
So yeah, good old Deadpool. Love Deadpool. And the Battle of the Atom, he's one of the people that comes from the future, so you see like a future version of him. And so he's still just kind of disfigured and stuff, and they're trying to figure out who all these people from the future are, and Wolverine's kind of like naming them like, oh, that's obviously Beast and whatever, and um Kitty Pryde, her older self, runs up to him and hugs him, and he's like, oh, Kitty, because they're really close. And
Mhm.
so the future Deadpool comes up and grabs her by her face and pushes her off of him, and then like starts making out with Wolverine. And he's like, "Oh, I missed you so much." Until like Wolverine like gets away from him, she's like, "Okay, that's Deadpool." Ah, God, I love Deadpool.
Okay, let's do the squee and the WTF.
Okay, you do Squee first, cause I haven't thought of one.
Okay, the one I have is sort of, I guess, old news by now. Um, there is an Australian show called Please Like Me that I really like. Um, it got picked up by a new US cable channel called Pivot, which I checked, and basically every cable provider in my area carries it except the cable provider that I use,
Who do you use?
Bright House.
Fuck you, Red House.
Yeah, Bright House.
Or
Um,
Bright House, sorry.
so it doesn't matter. I've already seen it. I downloaded it and watched it when it first aired in Australia, so whatever. But with it being shown on Pivot, there's a very good chance there will be a US release of the DVD, which I'm happy about because I wanted it on DVD. But the second thing that's really good about it being on Pivot is it was sort of up in the air whether or not the show would get a second season. I guess the viewership wasn't. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't like amazing. But it got critically, it got good reviews, so it was sort of up in the air whether or not it would be a second season. And since Pivot picked it up, Pivot partnered with the ABC broadcast channel in Australia, the Australian broadcast channel, not the US one, to make a second season. And it's going to have 10 episodes instead of 6. So we are guaranteed to have a second season, which I'm so excited about because everybody was like, we want a second season. So,
Well,
yay!
congratulations.
I know! And since it's.
Maybe if I have Pivot, I'll watch it.
Okay.
I don't
It's
know if
pretty
I
good.
have Pivot.
I mean, I think I mentioned it to you before. Like some people compare it to Girls, and I to an extent I can sort of see where that's coming from, but there's a lot of differences. Please Like Me has a lot more like family dynamics in it.
Mm.
But it has a lot of talks a lot about like family dynamics, relationship dynamics, mental health issues, sexuality issues, stuff like that. But it's like a dark comedy almost. It's a dramedy. There's drama and there's comedy. I like it. It's good.
Well, check your local listings. I guess. Okay, Squee. Okay, so American Horror Story
Mhm.
is starting
Mhm.
um soon. Do you know what date it starts?
Sometime in October, I think.
Okay, well, soon then. This new season is going to be about witches, which I'm really excited about. Um, and I'm excited because I found out from watching The Writer's Room.
Uh
Have you
huh.
heard of that show?
I think
Have you?
so.
It's the show on Sundance, I think it is, where
Yeah.
it's a show where they interview writers of different popular shows. So I watched someone with American Horror Story, and in it they said that um, they're trying to do like have the characters play opposite of what they did in the season before.
Okay.
So you're going to have the nun who got possessed by the devil.
Yeah.
She's gonna play like a really good character,
Uh huh.
and the chick who played Lana, the one who was like tortured
Yeah.
throughout the whole thing,
Yeah.
she's gonna be like an evil witch they kind of hinted at.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I was so
Well,
excited.
but having the nun that got possessed play a good character, I mean, for half of the last season, she did play a good character.
I know, that's what I thought. I was like, her character wasn't bad. She was possessed by the devil, but whatever. I really like her character. I liked her in the first season, even though you only see her in a couple episodes. So I was happy to see more of her in the second season. Apparently, in this third one, she's going to play a bigger role. So
Okay.
I'm happy with that. Yeah, I drew exception to the oh, she played a bad guy, because she didn't.
Yeah.
Her character was a good character.
Her character was almost like naive, like childlike in her naivete.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why she got possessed by the devil.
Yeah.
So I am so excited. Do you know if the dude who plays Spock's coming back?
I don't know.
He's so busy now that he's a big star.
I know I didn't wasn't like Kathy Bates or something supposed to be in this?
Really?
I want to say, I mean, maybe I'm misremembering the name, but they dropped a name of someone, and I want to say it was Kathy Bates, but I could be wrong because that seems like a huge grab.
Okay, we'll see. Sure.
I'm probably wrong.
Oh, and they put like little factoids up on the screen during the show, and apparently the head writer and the creator
Uh-huh.
said that he's never gonna do a season where there's vampires.
Why?
I that's all it said, and so I thought, oh, probably because vampires are so romanticized now, and it's supposed to be a horror show, and he
Well,
kind
but
of doesn't want to go down.
then
Good.
you go with like the classic Nosferatu style vampire that is horror.
Yeah, I was disappointed by that because I thought, yeah, I can see not want like, oh, we don't want to be another Twilight because so many young people do watch it and they kind of romanticize the cute boy characters, even when they're rapists. But we're not going to get on
Yeah.
that again. But yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
thought,
Look,
well,
I just looked it up. Kathy Bates will play an 1830s killer on American Horror Story, and
nice.
apparently Angela Bassett's going to be in it as well.
What is she going to play?
I don't know.
Well,
It
we are
doesn't
going to
say.
find out.
Yeah.
But yeah, about the vampire, I thought, oh, this would be such a great opportunity
Yeah.
to go
Do
back
like
to the classic vampire.
yeah the classic old school disfigured looking
Yeah.
giant rabbit teeth Nosferatu.
So yeah, hopefully it'll change his mind because he's like, oh, they asked him like, how far do you plan on going with this, and he said, oh, I don't want to ever stop the show. I think we should just keep doing it, and he joked about what they're gonna do on the 10th season. Everyone's gonna be a mime and it's gonna be silent, and so I think eventually he's gonna be like, all right, let's do some vampires.
it seems like I mean I didn't see the first season, but
You have to.
um it
Oh
was
my.
set like their pastime stuff was in the 70s, right?
Well, there was some 20s and stuff.
Oh,
It was
okay.
like all through.
Okay. Well, in the second season they were in the 60s. In this coming season they're going to be like in the 1800s. It seems like they just keep going further back in time. And I can't remember if it was with you or it might have been Megan, but I think it was with you that eventually they're just gonna get to like the cavemen times, and like with aliens and ghosts and yeah,
Well, it's still American Horror Story, so I think eventually it's going to be American Indians and aliens.
yeah.
And then you could have that guy uh from Ancient Aliens with the big hair. That would be fun. This is really going off the wall. So anyway, let's go to the WTF. What's yours?
Okay. Um. Well, I'm sure I probably had something else, but this is the only thing I can think of because I just recently read it. Um. So I've never seen the show Teen Mom on MTV, but I've, seen some quote unquote celebrity news about some of them. And there's that one that made the sex tape. What's her name? Like Farrah something.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah.
So I guess in some interviewer asked her if she considered herself to be a feminist. And she said, "Yeah, I'm pretty feminine, so sure." And I guess he like pressed her for a more like accurate answer because obviously she didn't understand the question. If she thinks, "Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm female, sure." Um, so she said something along the lines of like, "So being a feminist means you're a lesbian, right?"
I heard that. Oh my god. How sad.
Oh God. Here's the thing, like, I mean, she could be putting on an act because
Please.
I no, I mean,
No.
trust me, I don't think she is. But there were like when Paris Hilton was really quote unquote popular, even though she was kind of hated at the same time. like there were a lot of people who said that in private she's very smart and articulate and she puts on this act for the public because they
It
follow
makes
that.
money. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure this Farrah girl is probably not just putting on an act, but if she is, it's brilliant because, it's getting you publicity and it's gonna get you money and stuff, so.
Yes, but
But
it's certainly not a feminist move.
no, definitely not.
Yeah. So my WTF uh, is about DC. I'm sure you've heard
Oh, yes.
some
Yes.
of it. So DC's been horrible for years. They've been not only have they've been killing off characters that people like, kind of for no reason other than shock value or just to spite readers. But they with their new 52, they redesigned almost everybody, and they over sexualized all their characters, their female characters. I mean, um, my big qualm is with Oracle, who
Yeah.
was paralyzed, and they just made her better because no one really wants to see a crippled chick, and uh they when Marvel did their big North Star got married, who North Star is a gay man he got married
Mhm.
to, of course, his longtime boyfriend. Long time, let me mention, because people are like, oh yeah, they just did that for publicity. North Star and that guy had been dating for forever. It wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna make somebody gay. The dude has been gay for forever.
Uh-huh.
Um, so to kind of combat that, they kind of um, said, oh yeah, the original Green Lantern, he's gay, even though he never was an original one, and oh well, that's in our alternate universe, Earth 2, and we're only gonna mention it in like one issue, and then
Wait,
he's gonna go
uh,
away forever.
is Green Lantern from DC?
Yeah, but see,
Okay.
there's been like a billion Green Lanterns,
Yeah.
and this first one is the one that like nobody liked, and he hasn't been around for
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah,
They brought him
I mean,
back.
I remember when, because we talked about that when they made him gay. I just wasn't sure if Green Lantern was from DC or Marvel. So, okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
he's from DC.
Okay.
So the only, so yeah, I was totally pissed at them, but in their new 52, when they ruined everything, they introduced Batwoman, who is not a female version of Batman. She's her own character, who is actually introduced, I think, in the 60s as, ironically, a female interest of Batman to combat rumors that he was gay,
Gay. Yeah.
because they needed him to have sex with a woman. So they introduced her and then got rid of her really quickly to say, oh, look, see, he likes chicks. Now back to him running around with this young boy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so they reintroduce her as this. Um, I think she went to Iraq and stuff. And she came back, and now she's created herself into a superhero, and she's a lesbian. She's completely out lesbian, and she starts a romance with a female cop. Which again, I hate cops, so I was like, oh god, does that have to be a cop? But the series was really good. The writing was really good, and the art is beautiful. So I enjoyed reading that. But once DC released their um, fake fangirl advertisements in the back of their comic books, saying the greatest enemy of comic books is fake fangirls,
Yeah.
I gave up and I said I'm not going to buy any more DC products. I can't give them any more money so they can keep doing this to people. So I gave up my Batwoman that I loved a lot. Well, in a recent issue, she and her girlfriend get engaged, and the writers planned on doing a wedding, and then out of nowhere they got a note from the higher ups in DC that they were absolutely not allowed to do a gay wedding, an equal wedding.
Yeah.
And so the writers just up and left,
Yeah.
just said, no, forget this is over. And so the day that that gets released, later that night, DC posts up a contest kind of thing, searching for new artist talent. And to do this, to enter in, you have to draw 4 panels of Harley Quinn, which is an iconic female character.
Yeah.
All of in the four scenes, she has to be attempting suicide, and the last one, she needs to be naked in a bathtub. And people, justifiably, were pissed about this. Not
Yeah.
only not only do we have this great female character, you want us to apply for a job, we have to show her killing herself, and she has to be naked. So that's obviously bullshit, and I've seen
Yeah.
mostly guys argue with it, saying, "Well, that's their kind of character, it's she's just kind of crazy and fatalistic," and I understand that. That'd be like
I
if
just
if
I
if
just
Marvel said, "Oh, show Deadpool trying to kill himself," you'd be like, "Oh, he always tries to do that," but she doesn't literally try to kill herself. And they said, "Oh, she's in the bathtub. Of course she's naked." Well, they
I
didn't have to put her in a
the bathtub.
bathtub. Yeah. So yeah, it's completely ridiculous, and
Yeah.
so people are doing this thing where you, uh, instead of actually entering, you draw. You either write something on a JPEG and send in like, fuck you guys, or you draw dudes like Batman with his dick out, or anything you want to do. So we're all doing that. So kudos to everyone who sends in something like that. I can't draw, so I just did the kind of fuck you.
Someone
Um,
should, since you brought up Deadpool, someone should draw Deadpool dressed as Harley Quinn killing himself in a bathtub.
I think that might have already existed.
Really?
I'll have to find it. It seems likely. Uh, yeah. So what bothers me more than everything that DC is doing is that despite that they keep doing these horrible things, and this homophobic and sexist thing came out in the same day, you still have people saying, "Oh man, if they do anything else, I am definitely gonna
Oh
stop
yeah.
buying their comics."
Yeah.
It's like, so, and people give me shit for this, and I do act over dramatic to try to make a point. And so I've told people that if you buy any DC products, you're a bigot,
Hmm.
and I don't want to like give away my secrets. I of course don't think that people who buy DC products are bigots, but I'm trying to instigate an argument over the fact that you can't actually say you stand up for these values if you're going to financially support them,
Yeah.
because you're literally paying them to draw hurtful things about women and homosexuals and disabled people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is it? I mean, I don't know really about where does the majority of like a comic book company's revenue come from? I mean, does it come from the
Um,
comic books themselves or like the collectible stuff, like the figurines and shirt clothing and all that kind
uh,
of stuff?
Comic books m- make up like a very small percent
Yeah.
of the industry's income. And the
Yeah.
fact is that most comic book stores now don't sell very many comics
Yeah.
because they make so little money.
Yeah.
Um, the revenue all comes from merchandise. Of course,
So,
movies now, but it's mostly
yeah,
merchandise.
merchandise. So like so the bigger issue it, the I mean, discouraging people from buying the comic books is great, but it should also just more
Well,
so be discouraging them from buying the paraphernalia around the comic books.
that's what I've never said don't buy the comics. I said don't buy anything from DC.
Oh.
So yeah, and don't go see the movies, definitely.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. So I don't know. What do you think? Because people draw exception to me saying that. Is there like a line in the sand that a company would have to do something for you to not buy their products anymore? Like we talk about Doctor Who. Like
Okay.
dude, Moffat, he's
Oh
a
yeah. Oh, Moffat.
I mean, it's getting to the point where people are saying, if anything else happens, I'm going to stop watching that show. And it sounds a lot like DC. So,
Yeah.
to you, what would they have to do? And be honest, if he could do absolutely anything and you'd still keep watching, please admit to me that, because I'd love for someone to be honest about that. I won't be mean to you. I won't argue with you, but obviously people feel that way. Oh, I don't care what they do. I'm still going to watch it because I enjoy
Yeah.
the fandom.
Um,
But no one will actually say that.
I don't know. Like, because like I'm the kind of person that will watch, like 10 minutes of some indie or foreign film and be really bored by it, but then at the same time think, oh, I want to know how it ends. So I
Hmm.
just keep watching it, even though I'm hating it more and more. So yeah, to an extent, I would probably keep watching Doctor Who just to see what happens because I'm already into it so deep that I feel like I want to know what happens. And if I stop watching, I'm just constantly going to be wondering what's happening, what's happening, what's happening. But
So
then
there's
there,
literally nothing they could do.
well, I don't know about nothing. I mean, I don't know what they would do. I mean, I don't know. Um, hmm. Well, I mean, if they get on there and start like spewing hate speech or something, but that's never gonna happen.
But don't they kind of though? I mean, even if you don't,
I mean, like blatantly, not like
that's a
coded
gray
stuff
area though, because where do you get into blatant?
where they specifically say bad things. Like I can't think of anything specific, but like you know, like if they have somebody who if they have a character who is not supposed to be seen as evil on there saying things, you know, like, oh, all people of this race are like this, and all people who are disabled are this, and all women are this, and like bad things, then
But
yeah,
wasn't there a time? I think it was like, weren't one of the characters said something about all women or something? There was a comment something about like, oh,
um, there was a moment where the Doctor was trying to teach the newest companion Clara how to fly the TARDIS, and he said he was going to put it into easy mode for her to fly it, and she made the comment, "Oh, what is that? Because I'm a woman or something along those lines?" And he said, "No, of course not." And then he gave this kind of side-eyed look, like, "Yeah, that's exactly what it's for." That was
so
that to me was like the first um time, I guess, for me that I was like, oh, okay, this has gotten out of hand.
so it'd have to be more blatant than that.
Yeah.
Instead of looking off, he would have said, "Yeah, fuck woman," and then and then it would have been over.
I also think, though, to an extent, um, there's almost this sort of perverse pleasure out of watching something, hate watching something
Yeah.
because you hate it, so you can complain about it. Because if you don't watch it, you can't complain about it. You know? So,
I don't know. I can complain about stuff I don't watch.
well, but if you're not watching it, you've gotta know what's happening in it to be able to complain about it.
Yeah, I can. I get that, and I think this may be a little different because with the TV show, yeah, you can keep watching, but with like DC, it's like, oh, are you gonna keep buying all these
Yeah,
products?
especially with TV shows, you can just like you can download them and you're not giving any money to anyone, you know?
Yeah, and I've said this before a lot on Tumblr and to anyone who's listening. Yeah, please stop buying DC stuff. But no, you should totally download anything you want. Man, go for it. And it doesn't mean you have to stop, because there's this argument about like, oh, so do we have to hate Wonder Woman now? Well, no, Wonder Woman didn't do anything.
Yeah.
She's cool. You don't have to hate DC characters. You don't have to hate the good writers, especially ones that walk off when
Yeah.
things get too ridiculous. And you really don't have to stop reading the comics to, I mean, watch this train wreck. Just don't pay them for it. I mean, I'm not saying I do any of those, but the day that they get released, you can go on torrent and read anything. Okay, so do you have anything else, or should we end this show that's gone a half hour too long?
Okay.
I started, so you end it.
Oh. So Christy really liked Orphan Black. She gave it a 4 out of 5. I was kind of so on the X-Men cartoon. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. Um, so yeah. I don't know how to wrap this up.
So that was a great show. We hope that you watch X-Men and don't be racist and watch Orphan Black and be amazed at how much they can romanticize rape. So, see
Well,
y'all guys
wait,
later.
wait. They don't be amazed just that they romanticize rape, be amazed that of the actress that plays like 7 different characters convincingly.
Yeah, and feel really sorry for her for constantly being raped. Goodbye, everybody!
The important lesson to learn from that is it's okay to hate watch a show, especially if it's Doctor Who.
Ugh. Maybe.
Bye!
Okay. Bye.